22-year-old David Miller had been accepted to engineering school with a full scholarship, but the letter sat unopened in his work locker at the Shell station in Detroit. He couldn't afford to quit his job, couldn't risk losing the income that kept his younger siblings fed and housed. His dreams felt like cruel jokes when survival took everything he had. Until a late-night customer noticed the college brochures hidden under his work schedule and asked one simple question that changed everything. Welcome to Visionary Story. Before we begin this story of sacrifice, hidden dreams and the power of seeing potential where others see only struggle, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? And if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us make sure they are. The digital clock on the gas station wall read 11:47 p.m. when Katt Williams pulled his rental car into the Shell station on 8 Mile Road in Detroit. He just finished his second show at the Fox Theater and was driving back to his hotel when he realized he needed gas and something caffeinated to keep him alert for the late-night drive. The station was the kind of 24-hour establishment that served as a beacon for night shift workers, insomniacs, and anyone else navigating the city after most of the world had gone to sleep. Bright fluorescent lights cut through the Michigan darkness, and the constant hum of refrigerated cases filled the space with a steady white noise that was oddly comforting. Behind the bulletproof glass partition stood a young man who looked like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with the kind of lean build that suggested he'd been working physical jobs for a while. His uniform shirt was clean and pressed. His name tag read David, and everything about his posture suggested someone who took pride in doing his job well, even when that job was pumping gas at midnight. What caught Katt's attention, though, wasn't David's professional demeanor. It was the textbook partially hidden beneath the cash register, and the notebook full of what looked like mathematical equations scattered across the counter. "Evening," David said as Katt approached the window. "Pump number 4, Katt replied, handing over his credit card. Studying for something? David glanced down at the textbook he'd obviously tried to conceal, his face flushing slightly with embarrassment. "Just some reading," he said, quickly closing the book and sliding it out of view. But Katt had already seen enough to recognize advanced mathematics when he saw it. The equations visible on David's notebook weren't basic algebra. They were the kind of complex calculations that suggested someone was studying engineering or physics at a pretty high level. Katt asked casually. David paused in the middle of processing the credit card transaction, clearly surprised that a customer had not only noticed his studying but could identify the subject matter. "Yeah," he admitted. "Differential equations, actually." "That's some serious math for midnight gas station reading," Katt observed. David shrugged, but Katt could see something that looked like pride mixed with frustration in his expression. "I like numbers. They make sense, you know, unlike most other things in life." As the credit card authorization went through, Katt found himself genuinely curious about this young man who was teaching himself advanced mathematics during the graveyard shift at a gas station. "You in school?" Katt asked. The question seemed to hit David like a physical blow. His shoulders sagged slightly, and for a moment he looked much older than his 22 years. "Not exactly," David replied, focusing intently on the receipt printer as if it required all of his concentration. Something in his tone suggested there was a story there, and Katt's instincts, honed by years of reading audiences and understanding what made people tick, told him it was probably a painful one. "Can I ask why not? Because you're clearly smart enough." David looked up at Katt more carefully now, perhaps trying to figure out why a late-night customer was showing this much interest in his life. "It's complicated," David said finally. "I've got time," Katt replied, "and I'm genuinely curious." For a moment David seemed to be debating whether to open up to a stranger. Then, perhaps because it was late and he was tired, or maybe because he rarely had anyone to talk to about his situation, he began to speak. "I got accepted to Michigan Tech 2 years ago," David said quietly. "Full scholarship for mechanical engineering. Best day of my life, you know. I'd been working toward that since I was in middle school." "What happened?" "My parents were killed in a car accident 3 weeks before I was supposed to start classes," David continued, his voice matter-of-fact in the way people speak when they've told a story so many times it doesn't hurt quite as much anymore. Drunk driver ran a red light, hit them head on. Katt felt his chest tighten. I'm sorry, man. That's devastating. Yeah, well, that's life sometimes, David said, though his attempt at philosophical acceptance didn't quite hide the pain. The thing is, they left me with my sister Emma. She's 17 now, and my brother Tyler, who's 14. No other family that could take them, and I wasn't about to let them go into foster care. So you gave up college to take care of them. I tried to defer for a year, thinking maybe I could figure something out. But even with the scholarship covering tuition, there were living expenses, books, all that stuff. And somebody had to work to keep the lights on and food in the refrigerator. David gestured around the gas station. This pays enough to cover rent and basics, barely. Emma's got a part-time job at a grocery store after school, but she's also trying to keep her grades up so she can get into college herself. Tyler's in 8th grade, plays basketball, tries to act like everything's normal. And you've been doing this for 2 years. 2 years and 4 months, David confirmed. The acceptance letter is still in my locker back there. I keep meaning to throw it away, but... He trailed off with a shrug. Katt looked around the gas station, the cramped space behind bulletproof glass, the constant interruptions from customers buying cigarettes and energy drinks, the harsh fluorescent lighting that made everything look slightly sickly. Is this what you want to do with your life? He asked. David laughed, but it wasn't a bitter sound. Man, I wanted to design bridges, build skyscrapers, maybe work on renewable energy systems. I had plans to change the world, you know, save the environment, solve problems, make things better. Those dreams don't have to be dead. Katt. Yeah, they do, David replied with the certainty of someone who had already grieved for his lost future. Look, I'm not complaining. My siblings are healthy, they're doing well in school. We've got a roof over our heads. Lots of people have it worse. But college, that ship sailed. I'm 22. I've been out of school for 2 years, and I can't afford to stop working even if I could somehow get readmitted. Katt was quiet for a moment, processing what he'd just heard. Here was a young man who had sacrificed his own dreams to take care of his family, who was still educating himself with textbooks and late-night study sessions, who carried himself with dignity despite circumstances that would have broken many people. David, Katt said finally, what's your last name? Miller. Why? And you're still studying even though you're not in school? I guess old habits die hard. David said, I check out engineering books from the library, watch online lectures when I can get decent internet at home. Probably sounds stupid, but I figure if I can't go to college, at least I can keep learning. That doesn't sound stupid at all, Katt replied. It sounds like someone who refuses to give up on being the person they were meant to be. A customer pulled up to pump number 2, and David excused himself to authorize the transaction. While he was busy, Katt pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to his assistant. Need you to look into Michigan Tech engineering program and mission requirements for someone who deferred. Also need contact info for their financial aid office. Important. When David returned to the window, Katt was ready with a question that would change everything. David, if someone could figure out a way for you to go to school while still taking care of your siblings, would you want that? David stared at him suspiciously. What do you mean? I mean, what if there was a way to make it work financially? What if someone could help set up a situation where you could attend classes and your siblings could be taken care of? That's not possible, David said automatically. I've run the numbers 100 times. Even if I could get readmitted, even if the scholarship was still available, there's no way to make the math work. You've been doing the math with the wrong variables, Katt replied. David, I'm Katt Williams. David blinked in recognition. The comedian, among other things. And one of those other things is someone who believes that people like you, people with talent and determination, and the heart to sacrifice for others, deserve to have their dreams supported, not abandoned. Over the next 20 minutes, as David dealt with the occasional customer, Katt outlined a plan that was as simple as it was life-changing. He would establish a fund to cover David's living expenses and his siblings' needs, while David returned to school. More than that, he would arrange for additional support, tutoring for the siblings, counseling to help them process their parents' death, and a network of people who could provide the kind of guidance and stability that David had been trying to provide all by himself. I can't accept charity, David said, though Katt could see the hope fighting with pride in his eyes. "It's not charity," Katt replied. "It's an investment. You finish your engineering degree. You go out there and design those bridges and renewable energy systems you talked about. And someday when you're successful, you help the next kid who's in the situation you're in right now." "But why? You don't even know me." "I know enough," Katt said. "I know you've been taking care of your family for 2 years without complaint. I know you're still studying advanced mathematics on the midnight shift at a gas station because you refuse to let your dreams completely die. I know you're the kind of person who deserves to succeed." 3 months later, David Miller was sitting in his first mechanical engineering class at Michigan Tech, his notebooks filled with the kind of equations he'd been studying by fluorescent light for the past 2 years. His siblings were thriving. Emma had been accepted to the University of Michigan with her own scholarship, and Tyler was excelling in both academics and basketball with the support of a mentorship program Katt had connected them with. The gas station job was a memory, replaced by work-study opportunities that actually related to David's field of study. For the first time since his parents' death, he was building toward a future rather than just surviving day to day. He sent Katt updates regularly, photos from his internship at an automotive engineering firm, news about his academic achievements, stories about the renewable energy project he was working on that might actually help solve some of the environmental problems he'd dreamed of addressing. "You didn't just give me a chance at college," David wrote in one letter. "You gave me back the person I was supposed to be. Every bridge I design, every problem I solve, every innovation I contribute to, it all traces back to that night when you saw potential instead of just a gas station attendant." Katt kept those letters as reminders that sometimes the most important investments aren't made in stock markets or real estate, but in people whose dreams have been deferred but not destroyed. So now I ask you, have you ever been Dave, working a job that paid the bills but buried your dreams, sacrificing your future for responsibilities that no one else could handle? Or have you been the person who walked past someone whose potential was hidden by their circumstances? Share that story in the comments. Let others know about the hidden genius you've encountered, or the moment when someone finally saw what you were capable of. Because at Visionary Story, we believe that dreams don't expire, they just wait for the right circumstances and the right support to come alive again. Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to see beyond the uniform to the person wearing it. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, subscribe, share, and help us keep these voices alive. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, remember, if you ever meet someone whose current situation doesn't match their potential, maybe you're looking at a future engineer, doctor, or teacher who just needs someone to believe in their possibility.